Welcome to our second guest speaker. We generally try to have 4 speakers a semester, have guests come in and not only get to know our college, but you guys get to know, in this case, Captain Lynn Zirkle, who is a professional fisherman, tournament fisherman, charter captain, and used to work for Herff Jones. Those of you who got those fancy rings, that used to be Captain Lynn as well. But we like to bring in people from the community that work in the field of environmental or in science or in parks and recreation, things along those lines. So you guys can not only see what's out there for careers that you might be interested, network and meet people that have been there, done that, but also just a general enrichment. So I'd like to thank you all for coming. And I'm going to leave the floor to Captain Lynn, who's here to talk about the saltwater slam, the big 3, if you will.
Good. How y'all doing?
Good.
Good. I'm Lynn Zirkle, like Chris was saying, and I've lived here for almost 60 years, so I know the waters around here everywhere where we go fish. Fishing is really it's a tough sport. People think, well, you're just going to go out and fish and relax and stuff like that. Tournament fishing is different than just fun fishing. Lots of times you only want one big fish. You want, the biggest one. The rest of them, let them go. So tournament fishing is a lot different mindset than just out fun fishing. Charter fishing is a lot of work. A lot of people say, well, you go out, you get to have fun every day and get to go fish every day with people. Believe me, there's a lot of guys out there that don't make it because it takes so much work. You're up at 4:30 in the morning, you're going out throwing the net, getting bait, then you're picking the people up at 7 or 8 o'clock. You're out in the sun all day, then you got to clean the boat up and everything. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun too, but when you get into days where the tides aren't right, you can't catch any fish, then the pressure's on. You have to go find some fish. So we put together a PowerPoint here to show you what we can do to catch different fish. And we're going to talk about the slam, inshore slam, redfish, snook, and trout. We use the same equipment basically with everything. So I'm going to go through it with you on a PowerPoint showing you where we go, what we catch, how we catch them, type of equipment, everything. I'll get this working. Yeah, trout, redfish, and snook. We'll talk about the equipment we're going to use, then where to go to catch all these fish, and then the artificial baits, and then live baits we can use, and then how to use it all, how to put it all together. The equipment I use a 7-foot rod, usually. It's a medium action, 7-foot rod, and I use a quantum reel. I put 15-pound braided line on here. I like braided line because you can feel the bite. The real sensitivity is really good here. So we use, again, 15-pound braid. Then we put a 30-pound leader on here because, again, the abrasion of snook or redfish or even trout. So we have to have a longer leader. When you tie the knot up here, I don't use any swivels. Swivels just create too many problems for the fish to see it. They can see swivels and their eyesight's just amazing. So we don't use any swivels at all. We tie the braid right to the fluorocarbon leader. We use fluorocarbon. If you don't use fluorocarbon, then the fish are going to see it again. The only time I've never used fluorocarbon, I went up to Louisiana, Venice, Louisiana. I wanted to see, do they really catch as many redfish up there that they show on TV? And they do. It's crazy up there. I was with a guide, his name was Tofield Bourgeois. Amazing, great guy. We were out there just using plain braided line, tied to a hook, and that was it. And we were catching 40 and 50 redfish a day. It's crazy. Down here, it's a totally different story. They're really, really sensitive. Sometimes we even have to go pure fluorocarbon line all the way because of the coloration and the fish can see it. But basically I just use the braided line fluorocarbon leader. When you tie the knot onto the leader here, you can use a double uni knot to tie it on here. The important thing with braid though, braid will cut through that leader. So I double the line here. Then I tie my double uni. Then it's not going to break. For a while there I was having broken lines. I'd catch some fish and all of a sudden the line would break. What was happening, that single line would cut right through the fluorocarbon leader. So double up your line to make your knot, okay? The fluorocarbon line, again, I like it rather than monofilament, because monofilament stretches too much. So I like the braid, it's a lot better. Speckled trout, these are a lot of fun to catch. They're great to eat too, really good to eat. One of my favorite places I go is up in Dunedin during the wintertime. There's spoil islands north of the Dunedin Causeway. Has anybody ever been there? There's about 7 different islands there. And the big, large gator trout show up there in the wintertime from the 1st of December to the 1st of February. And they're all just giant, giant trout. But they're on the northwest corner of these islands. You can go out in the middle, in between the islands, and you'll catch small trout. The big gator trout are only on the northwest corner. Don't know why. So if you fish any of the islands, don't fish anywhere else but the northwest corner. But there's a lot of trout up there. Speckled trout, they're great to eat. I love them. I usually blacken them. We did a show one time on fishing chips, and we caught trout, then we showed people how to cook the fish with the blackening powder. Always look for potholes, white sandy potholes, because the fish will lay on the edges there waiting for bait to come through, and they'll go ahead and hit it. And make sure you look at clear water. If the water's dirty, the fish aren't going to be there. It's like going into a room full of smoke. You don't want to go in there. Same thing. If the water's dirty, they won't go there. Hunt for clear water. That's very important. 4 to 6 feet deep. Okay? Use that as your magic number, 4 to 6 feet. If you go any place on the flats, look for some potholes, and it's 4 to 6 feet deep, then just drift right through there and cast toward the potholes. During the wintertime, again, they're going to be on the edges of the sandbars. And they'll be under some boats that are in marinas and stuff. And the reason for it, that muddy water gets warmer during the wintertime. And the fish will lay on that muddy water to keep warm. So wintertime, find some muddy places. Clear water, but muddy bottom. Very important for that. Different artificial baits I use. I use live target lures quite a bit. And I'll use mirror lures and so on. I use a scaled sardine. You can see them up here. Scaled sardine is up in the top left. Then there's a new one out called a bait ball. It looks like glass minnows inside that lure. So when these fish are feeding on glass minnows, you can use that lure and cast it out there, and they just seem to nail it right now. And then a shrimp. Use the plastic shrimp, soft plastic shrimp. You can use the night glow color, or you can use just a regular green color. Here they use a smaller one. So again, different types of artificial baits. It depends on what time of the day. Early in the morning and late in the afternoon, I'll use the hard plastic baits like the bait ball and the scaled sardine. Then during the rest of the day, I'll use the softer plastics. Here's some more lures that I use quite a bit. Scaled sardines, mirror lure, the mirror dean. It's called an MR17, and one's called a heavy dean. It sinks down a little bit slower. So I use that one up in Dunedin most of the time. And then a gold spoon, I use that just as a backup. But the mirror dean, I can use that any time during the day because it sinks down deeper, around 3 or 4 feet. So if you're using hard plastics, you don't want to go out and buy bait, go ahead and use something like this. It's easier to cast, and you don't sit there and just sit there and wait for the bobber to go down with live bait. Okay. Some of the lures have little propellers on the front of them. You can get some. Here's a scaled sardine. Some will have a propeller on the front and on the back. And what that does is it floats. And when you hit it real hard, those propellers move and it splashes. And you just keep doing that as you're bringing it across the top of the water, early in the morning or late in the afternoon. What that does, it gets the attention of the fish out there. They look around and they hear this noise, and then they see this minnow up there splashing. So it acts like it's injured. So that's another good lure to use, is one with a propeller on the front. But only use that in the morning, early in the mornings, right when the sun's coming up till about 8 o'clock. After that, then I change over to soft plastics. When you tie your lure on, I use about 3 feet of fluorocarbon leader and then tie it right to the nose part. Okay? 3 feet. Don't use a foot. You don't need 6 feet. I just go with 3 feet as a norm. When you cast it out there, you just twitch it. Cast it out, let it hit the surface, and just twitch it a couple times. Wind the slack up. Twitch it again, wind the slack up. Switch it again, nothing happens, do it a little bit faster. Keep changing it around until you get the cadence of what the fish want. Sometimes I'll change it all day. I'll wind it real fast, all of a sudden they'll come in and hit it. When you wind them slow sometimes, they just won't touch it. So you have to change it. It all depends on the water temperatures, the cloud cover, everything. So change it around all day till you find out what that magic motion is for them. When the fish hits those lures, don't yank on it just because you see a big splash. People do that a lot. The fish will come up, hit it, and miss it, and people yank. Now the lure's gone, it's out of the water. Don't yank on the lure until you feel the fish taking it and going away from you. Then you can just do a little pop. Don't set the hook like you see a lot of bass fishermen, okay? I fish for bass, but bass fishermen, you see them just yank and almost yank their head off. If you do that, you're gonna miss these fish because the trout have real soft mouths. All you have to do is just pop it like that, and that braid will set the hook immediately for you. So you don't yank the back on it. I've had some people do that, they hit it so hard, the fish goes flying through the air behind them. They have to duck. Soft plastic baits. I use a lot of soft plastics during the day then. After the sun comes up till about 8:30 or 9, then I'll go to a soft plastic. I'll use a gold color, or else I'll use a root beer color, or a motor oil red color. That's the color I mainly use right here. But then I'll change around, find out what color they want. If I have 2 or 3 people on the boat, I'll put different colors out and see which one works best, because it'll change. But mainly the root beer color is the most popular one. As you see here, I have a cork on this one. I have some without corks and some with corks. When you cast it out, that'll sit down about 3 feet, because you're in 4 to 6 feet of water, and you pop it. Then that cork will make a little splash, okay? Again, it's drawing the fish in to see what's going on. Then when they come over there, then they see the lure going up and down. You'll pop it, and that lure comes up in the air, and then it drops back down. You pop it, it comes up, and it drops back down. It's acting like a shrimp. So they'll come over and hit it. And usually, after you pop it, and it comes up, it's going back down, those fish will hit that at that time as it's dropping. When you get ready to pop it again, you're actually setting the hook. Okay? This is one of my favorite ways for catching trout. It's a lot of fun. You just get to cast all the time. You just don't sit there and watch everything. Start casting. But these work really well with popping corks. Sometimes we'll have them without the corks, but lots of times I'll use the cork. The reason why I set it at 3 feet is you're in the grass in there, you're in water 4 to 6 feet deep, you want to keep it above the grass. These fish are laying in the grass, so this goes right above the grass. It's up there popping up and down. So it's a real easy lure to use, okay? Anybody have any questions? The jig head I use is 1/8 ounce, okay? I don't use the heavier one because it drops down too fast in the grass. I like 1/8 ounce jig heads. If you have any questions, just stop me, okay? Anytime.
Do you use live bait, or do you ever use like soft bait for like catching kingfish?
For kingfish?
Do you ever use like artificial bait?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I was told like from a lot of people that it's like harder to catch them from not live bait. So I was just curious because everybody has a different bait.
Yeah, king mackerel fishing is a little bit different. You can use artificial baits you troll with planers, and you can use spoons or artificial lures like bomber lures. Live Target's got some scale sardines, Spanish sardines, and so on. You'll troll about 4 to 6 miles an hour using artificial baits with a planer. I don't like doing it too much because when the fish hits, it's like winding in a bucket of water because you got the planer out there that's just, you know, digging down deep. And when they're hooked up, they just come up to the surface, you wind them in like winding in a bucket of water. So most of the time when I go kingfishing, I'll use live bait. Tournaments, that's all I use, exclusively live bait. And another philosophy on kingfishing, king mackerel, fun fishing, tournament fishing, 2 different mindsets. Fun fishing, I may use some planers and spoons and small baits just to get action going, catch a bunch of fish. Tournament fishing, only want 1 fish for the whole day, the whole weekend. I only want one. So I'll use giant baits. We'll use blue runners this big. Ladyfish live, this big. We'll use mackerel alive. Because when something hits that bait that big, that's going to be a giant fish. So we may fish all day, maybe get one bite, that's all. So tournament fishing is all in the mindset. We only want that one big fish, that's it.
Smart.
Okay. And you'll troll them only going about 1 mile an hour. You want to go real slow, just enough to keep the lines directly behind the boat. You go any faster, it kills the bait. So you want to go just fast enough to keep the lines going and the bait swimming. And you'll change your baits out a lot. Because when the baits get tired, then they'll come up belly up and the fish won't eat them. Fish want lively baits, whether it's redfish, trout, snook, kingfish. They want live baits that are active, real active. We've seen some big kingfish come up behind the boat and look at our ladyfish and they swim around it. They don't come charging across the water and hit it and take off. They swim with the bait first and they look at it and they sort of harass the bait. They go, I'm going to eat you. I'm going to eat you. And if the bait panics, they eat it. If the bait just goes, what the hell, get it over with. They swim away and go, that's no fun. They leave. So you got to put fresh baits on. Lots of times you put a fresh bait on, letting it out, right when you're letting it out, boom, you got a fish, because it's lively. I had a charter last spring. Took a young boy out, was 12 years old, and his grandparents and his father. And we let the bait out. I told him to hold the pole while I got another bait. He said, Captain Lynn, I think I have a fish. The pole was just bent over. It took about 200 yards of line in about 10 seconds. And the kid caught a 39-pound fish. Pissed me off. Day after the tournament, you know. But, and this little kid fought that fish. He had a great time with it, you know. So lively baits, you got to have lively baits, whether it's inshore or offshore. Yes?
Do you find in these waters that chumming is a good way to go if you anchor, or do you chum all?
For what, inshore
Do you chum
or
all?
offshore?
Offshore.
Offshore? Yes, I'll chum, but I don't throw a whole bunch of chum out at once. We'll get some scaled sardines or thread fins, and we use those and keep them in one bait well just for chum, alive. Then we use our big blue runners for our real baits. But we want to get fish active and get them going. So some people will get some of those thread fins and bounce them off the motor to stun them as you throw them out. Well, problem with doing that, you hit the motor too hard, it kills them, they just lay there. Or if you don't hit it hard enough, it doesn't stun them. So I guess we're kind of brutal. We just cut their tails off and throw them in the prop wash, and then they're just flashing all over the place. But we don't throw a whole bunch of them out at once. We just put them out once every 10 minutes or so. We'll throw one out. Just keep throwing one out, stuff like that. I read in one of the magazines one time that if you get a net full of bait, put your bait in the water on the hook and put a net full of bait and throw it out there, and they all gather up together. And then you let your line out and the whole school goes back with your bait. So I tried it. I put my bait in the water and I threw a whole net full of bait on there, and they all took off. They lied to me. It doesn't work. But don't chum too much. You chum too much, then all the fish are going to eat those chums, and they're not going to eat your bait. Inshore the same way. You'll have people chum live bait for redfish. They'll put it in a bat, maybe 20 or 30 of them, throw them all out at once. It's good to start it, but don't keep doing it all day. If you do it all day, the fish are going to eat it. Plus, as soon as you throw that one bat full of bait out there, birds come down. All of a sudden the birds show up and they're diving on the baits. When they do that, they're going to spook the fish. They're gone. So chum them to get them going and then back off and just use your own baits to go out there. Okay? Chumming dead baits, I'll use that when I fish for kingfish if I'm anchored up. Then I'll put a whole bunch of chum out. I'll put 2 or 3 bags of chum on each side of the boat and we'll put it back. If there's other boats out there trolling and chumming, I won't waste my time because everybody's chumming and it forms a great big oil slick and it doesn't do any good. Then the fish are all confused. So why waste the money on it? But if we're by ourselves and we're slow trolling, we'll put chum out also. 2 or 3 bags just to get a slick going So if a kingfish comes by, it smells that and then comes up your slick, and then there's your bait. We did that 4 years ago. Well, we do it all the time, but 4 years ago we were off Venice from a tournament up here. And I looked back and saw this giant shadow back there. I thought, what is this? It was like a miniature submarine. It was a whale shark. The whale shark was coming up our chum slick because he smelled it. And he was about 35, 40 feet long. Beautiful, beautiful fish. He came up right behind the motors and put his mouth on the motors. And we're back there petting him. It was amazing. They had cobia all around him, and amberjack, everything. But chum will bring all kinds of fish in. So yeah, we'll chum. Yeah, the one guy with us wanted to jump in and swim with him. And I said, no, better not do that, because we had caught an amberjack about this big earlier, and it was bit in half by something. And it wasn't a whale shark. So there was something else out there also. So anyways, yes, we do chum. Okay? Any other questions? The soft plastics, that's the easy way to go. They're inexpensive. You don't have to go out and keep buying live shrimp all the time. I usually don't like buying live shrimp because it's just pinfish will eat them up all the time. So I use a lot of artificial. The live baits, scaled sardine, which is white bait, shrimp, real small pinfish. I use that for the trout also. Okay. Now, when you're using live bait, I use like a 2/0 circle hook. I use all circle hooks, but I'm offshore, which is mandatory now, or inshore, because you don't have to set the hook. All you do is just wind, and it sets it for you, and it's easier on the fish. We do a lot of catch and release. I don't like taking a whole bunch of fish out. I want to leave all the fish there. We may take 1 or 2 fish at that. But circle hooks. Now, sometimes when you use a circle hook or any other type hook, excuse me, you'll hook the bait right in the nose. There's a hard spot between the excuse me, between the eyes and the mouth. There's a hard spot right there on the nose. You can put that hook right through there and it holds them in place. If you try putting them up through their mouth, through their chin, and you cast it, it'll rip them out. Or if you put it through their eyes, it rips it out. So there's a hard spot right between the eyes and the nose. The problem with the hooks, it goes in there, then it may go too far and the hook turns over and bends back into the fish. And all of a sudden you get a fish that bites and you're not getting any hookups because the barb is back in the fish. So use a little bead. I use these little beads on here that keeps the live bait down here on the bottom so it doesn't slide up and so it doesn't get you foul hooked. I put a little bead here, or just get a little piece of plastic, you know, cut off a little piece of your soft plastic and put that on there.
You know what else works? A little tie of 20, you get your mono leader and just tie one little knot and then snip it, and just a knot of mono will keep the fish from, the bait from sliding up the hook.
Because that's the problem with live bait, is that hook will go through and rehook itself back in the bait, and then you won't get any hookups. So get a little bead or tie a knot on there with some mono on there, and that stops that. Okay? How to catch bait? Well, you can go buy your bait, some shrimp if you want to. You need to have a good bottom machine if you're getting some scaled sardines or thread pins, stuff like that. Good bottom machine so you can see the bait. Here you can see the stack of bait right here going up to the top. Lots of times you'll see that, and those are usually thread pins when they're on the bottom like that. You can catch the bait using Siddiqui hooks. Everybody know about Siddiquis? They're little gold hooks. They're on a leader. There's about 6 of them on there. And you put a weight on the bottom, you cast it out, you just go up and down like that, and the white bait hits that little gold hook, and you wind it up and you got your bait. Okay? Don't do that on the flats because of all the grass, but around bridges and stuff, you can catch them that way. I use a number 8 Siddiqui for white bait. Okay, always remember that. You get any bigger, 10 and 12, they're too big. All those hooks are too big. When we catch the big blue runners, we use like number 14 and 16. They're big hooks. And these big blue runners, like I said, we want them this big for kingfishing. But for inshore, the little white baits are about this big, about 3 or 4 inches. They're great. There shows a Siddiqui rod. Some people use spinning rods. But the problem is, when you're all done, you put your rod in the rod holder, and when you walk by, those little hooks will get in your shirt every time. Get you all upset. So you buy a Siddiqui rod, and those little gold hooks go inside the rod, and they don't mess with it then. Or use a cast net. That's the easiest way. I get a cast net, I'll go to the bridge, a certain bridge, depends on what the tide is, whether it's at the Skyway or Bunce's Pass, or if I'm up in Dunedin, up in there. Use a cast net, throw it one time, you'll get 200 or 300 baits in one throw. And you fill your well up, you're all set, okay? One thing that's important when you throw your net and get your bait, dump it in the well, get a bucket, and get like 4 bucketfuls of water, dump it right on top of the bait immediately. Because those baits are already spooked and they're stressed out. So if you throw fresh water on top of them, not just your bait well, pump, throw the water on there, you'll save a lot of your bait that way. Okay, always do that. Live shrimp. If you use a live shrimp, you hook them right under the horn right here. Not in that little black spot, because that's their brain, it will kill them. So right underneath there. Sometimes you can hook it through the tail. Most of the time I just hook it right there above the, right above the horn. Circle hooks again. The scale sardine, I went through that, hook them through the nose. Once in a while, if you're fishing up by the mangroves, then I'll hook them down by the anal fin. Hook them right in there and cast them up. That way you can control those fish when they're going up under the mangroves. You don't want them going all the way up underneath there. Okay. Redfish. These are one of my favorites on the Platte because they're like bulldogs. You know, they just don't give up. They just keep pulling. I just showed Chris a picture of my grandson. He's been fishing off my dock all the time. He's 6 years old. And he catches some pinfish off my dock. Well, he was losing bait all the time. And I said, Bryson, I said, I've been trying to catch that fish for years. I can't catch him. His name's Fast Lips. His lips are so fast that he just takes your bait and you can't get him. So he tried and he kept losing the bait. Finally, he caught a little pinfish. He was excited. He said, I caught Fast Lips. I said, no, that's his brother Loose Lips. You didn't catch him. So I got him a brand new rod and everything, and he had like a little Zebco before. So now he wanted to get a redfish. So we went out last week, and he went out, and it was an amazing trip, really. We didn't leave home till 1 o'clock. Went, got bait, went out to the flats, and he caught 4 33-inch redfish in an hour, and we left and went home. It's like, God, look at this. He didn't even pay me. He was cheap. For redfish, always fish the incoming or outgoing tides. When the tide's dead, they're usually not going to feed. They like moving tides coming in. You need to find different places for incoming tide and outgoing tides. Some of the fish like those different areas when they start feeding. But always look at your tides. That's a very important thing. Mangrove points, oyster beds. The reason for that, on the mangrove points, there's usually oyster beds on them. Oyster beds have crabs and shrimp in there. Redfish come up there and eat those crabs and shrimp. Look for schools of mullet. I always look for mullet jumping. And then you see schools of mullet moving. When they're moving, the redfish are in there with them. The reason for it, the mullet are going across the flats. They're eating grass, stirring up the bottom. They don't eat shrimp. They're not meat eaters. So they're just stirring up the bottom. When they're stirring up their bottom, they're raising shrimp, and they're raising crabs and little pinfish. So the redfish are just going right through there with them and eating. Let them do all the work stirring it up, and they just come there and eat behind them. So always look for that as you're on the flats. Look for a lot of schools of mullet. Or look for flashes of redfish. Look for the flashing, like an orange flash. You have to sit there and wait a while, but when you watch them, then all of a sudden you see them flashing. They're just moving along the grass. They're usually between the beach and the grass. They'll go right on that edge there, going up and down that edge all day. When it gets to be high tide, they'll go up inside the mangroves. Then they're hard to find. You got to look for that orange flash up in there. So you got to be really, really careful with redfish because they spook real easy. I mean, not like up in Louisiana, you run your big motor right on top of them and catch them. Here, we stop the motor probably a quarter of a mile away and use a trolling motor and put it on low. These fish can hear that. They can hear your motor when you're a mile away. If you go on the flats sometimes, watch it, and watch a boat running by a half a mile away. All of a sudden, a school of redfish raise up and move. They feel the vibrations. So even with your trolling motor, they can feel the vibration. It'll spook them. Best way is go upwind and start drifting down, and go real slow looking for them with your trolling motor. Too many guys will run their trolling motors, and everybody's running them. When we went out there last week, we were on a school of redfish, and here comes 5 boats in, all of them running their trolling motors real fast. Well, they just spooked all the fish then. They came in slow, and everybody does it right, then you can circle them and just keep them right there for a long time. And just every cast you can catch them. But everybody's got to be doing the same thing. It's really quiet. You can't slam lids. I mean, that's the worst thing. You have people open the lid to get a drink or something, and slam the lid, and boom, fish raise up and move. So you got to be really quiet out there with them. Artificial baits. I use the artificial baits, again, early in the morning, the hard plastics. The scaled sardines, as you see up here, the pinfish, they have a mullet look-alike, shrimp. I use those first thing in the morning when the sun's coming up. Then after the sun comes up, around 9 o'clock or so, I'll change over to a gold spoon. Again, like I told you before, early in the morning, use the artificial baits. Then about 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, change over to a gold spoon. That's the go-to bait for red fishing. Soft plastic, I like using a gulp shrimp, a new copper, because it puts a lot of scent in the water. And I'll cast that out and work it just like the regular, the other soft plastic baits. But I'll use that when I'm in tournament fishing for redfish. We'll use that exclusively. We don't use some of the other baits. We'll just stay with that because of the smell on them. One thing about the gulp baits, take them off the hook when you're done that day. Throw it away. Don't leave them on the hook. If you leave it on the hook overnight, that thing hardens up like a piece of concrete. You have to get a knife and try to cut it off your hook. So take it off, throw it away. It's not going to be any good after that. But a gulp bait is really good because it's scented.
And they're messy. Make sure you put them in a Ziploc bag. They come in a little Ziploc bag, and you think that's good. Your whole tackle box is going to be stinky and covered in goo unless you put it in a real Ziploc, and not the Dollar Tree Ziploc, like a real Ziploc with the thing on it. Because they, for some reason, it's like losing socks in the laundry. Your gulp's going to wet all your tackle.
Yep. And you can buy little jars of it with a lid.
They're tremendous bait.
And put that in a Ziploc too.
Yeah.
Because it'll leak.
Yeah, they're tremendous bait, but for some reason, they just will, they'll mess your car up, they'll mess everything up unless you double bag it and...
Yeah, you have to. You have to. Redfish, again, we use scaled sardines, small pinfish. I use a lot of dead baits when I fish for redfish. And the reason why is it's easy, and they can find the bait, and it's easier for the people to cast. Dead baits. I use ladyfish. I'll go out and catch some ladyfish. I'll take the charter out and let them catch ladyfish for me. And they have fun catching the ladyfish. And the ladyfish will be about this big, and we cut them up in about 2-inch chunks. Start at their tail, start chopping them. 2-inch chunks, put them on the hook, throw it out, and let it sit. Now, that's when you've already found the redfish. Sometimes if you don't find them, you can throw them out there, but you're just going to sit. If you can find a school of redfish, cast them on the outside of the school. Don't cast it in the middle. You cast it in the middle, it hits the water, boom, it spooks them, they're gone. So cast them out on the edges. Even if you don't see them, you'll see redfish here, cast it right over here, about 10 feet away from it. They'll find it. They'll find it, sure. Pinfish will find it, some catfish may find it too. But it's a really good bait to use, about 2 inches thick. When I do that, I use a 4/0 or a 3/0 circle hook. And the reason why I do that is because that bait is so chunky and so big. And I just put the big chunk of bait on there, throw it out there, and really just put it in a rod holder. You don't even have to hold it. Put it in a rod holder, and all of a sudden you look up and see your pole bending, and you've got a fish on. There's no skill. But I use a 3/0 circle hook for that. When I use a live bait, it's a 2/0 circle hook. little one. When I'm fishing for snook, trout, or redfish, I use that with the live bait, steel sardine. Dead baits, I'll use the 3/0 circle hook. This is a Daiichi hook that I use, bleeding hook they call it. We'll get pinfish also. We'll catch pinfish, cut them diagonally. Use the tail on one bait, use the head on another one, throw it out there. Redfish like those too. Sometimes that's all they'll eat. They may be eating ladyfish for 2 weeks and all of a sudden they change over. They want pinfish. Look in the water and if you see little pinfish flashing all over the place, that's what they're feeding on. So then change over to pinfish. Or if you have thread fins, get a whole net full of thread fins. Cut the head off and the tail off. You just have the center. Put the hook right down by the stomach and cast it out. When you cast it, it's like an airplane wing. It'll go a lot further and lands. So you just cast it out there, let it lay there. You don't have to do anything. Really easy. Let the bait sit on the bottom. I've had so many people I take out on charters will throw the baits out there and they'll hold the rods and all of a sudden I look over and I see them winding it. And they're twitching it, winding it. You know, don't do that. Dead baits don't twitch and swim. You know, you need to keep the scent there because that current will take the scent around and then the redfish will smell it and come right up to the scent and find the bait. They'll find the bait for you. So don't cast it out and start winding it. Let it lay there and wait for them. It's the easiest way to catch redfish. Snook. Snook fishing is a lot of fun, a lot of work too. The best time really to snook fish is at night. Have you all heard of this guy called Dave Pomerleau? They call him the Mad Snooker. He only fishes nights. His charters are only at night. 9 o'clock to 3 in the morning. That's his charters. He's the only charter captain you see that's got pure white skin. He's not tanned at all. But they fish at night because of the way they hang around the docks and the lights. Snook feed all the time. They like moving water for ambushing. Always look for moving water, whether it's an incoming tide or an outgoing tide. Matter of fact, there's a chart out that tells you what moon phase to fish. When it's a full moon to the first quarter, no, the new moon to the first quarter, fish an outgoing tide. First quarter to the new moon, you fish an incoming tide. And it alternates like that, and it works. It works. So then I'll look on my chart and see when the tides are and say, okay, it's an incoming tide. I need to go over here and fish for the snook on this. Or it's incoming, it's not the right moon phase for it. Outgoing is the right moon phase for that one. So I'll make sure that I fish that area for the outgoing tide. So there is a difference, but the main thing, again, moving water. Got to have moving water. Look for points on beaches, mangroves, docks, a lot of docks. Our snook population got decimated about 8 years ago from that freeze. I mean, it killed, I'd say 90% of the snook that we had here. I used to have snook under my dock all the time, and I haven't seen a snook yet there. So the snook are really tough. I used to have a place in Dunedin, I'd go catch snook. We'd catch, 8 or 10 a day like this. And I think I caught one last year in that spot. Just, they're taking a long time to come back. That's why they put the ban on them where you can't keep any of them. Let them go. During the summertime, a lot of the snook are on the beaches. They go out there to spawn. Again, they're right up next to the beach. A lot of people already know about Honeymoon Island. You go right there on that point. You can put your boat up on the beach if you want to and just stand out there and cast. Throw it up current, let it come right back down. And the snook are laying in that trough, waiting to catch a bait coming by. They're really kind of lazy feeders. They lay on the bottom like that because there's ripples in the sand about this high. And they lay down inside that ripple so the water goes up over top of them. Then when they see a bait coming, they come up and they grab it and go back down. So they're always laying there looking for bait to come at them. Late summer and fall, then you move to the edges of the potholes, and then they're going to start moving back up into the back country because it's starting to get colder. They want to get warm. So during the winter time, you can go fish marinas. Or if you're fishing some docks, fish a sailboat, find a sailboat. The keel is a lot lower, okay? When the sailboat is sitting there and the keel's a lot lower, then the sun is heating up that sailboat. it's going to transfer the heat down to the keel and warm up the water down around the boat. The snook will be laying right around in there because it's warmer and they want to stay alive. Artificial baits. I use a lot of different ones on here. Again, I use the scale sardine. The scale sardine is almost a go-to for anything, for trout, redfish, or snook. Then the bait ball. I've been using that a lot lately because, again, all the little glass minnows that are out there. If you find some glass minnows all over the surface, go to a bait like that because it blends right in with them. The live target shrimp, again, and then the popper. The popper right here has the concave nose to it. So when you cast it out there and you pop it, it makes a sound, goes bloop, and it sprays water out front. Bloop, bloop as you're doing it. And you don't do it real fast. Just cast it out one time, twitch, and then wait a while. Wind it a little bit and then hit it again. Just bloop, bloop, and it's got that little feather on the end. And a lot of snook like that bait, okay? You gotta work it slow. Okay. We went through basically the same thing here with the redfish. Work the points. Soft plastics, I like to use the white one right here. I like to use the white lure up there. It looks more like a Spanish sardine or a white bait out there. I use that a lot when I'm using the soft plastics under the dock. I can cast that up underneath the dock a lot easier than using a hard plastic. And the live baits, scale sardines again. We use those for everything. Trout, redfish, snook. We use big jumbo shrimp at night when we're fishing docks. Not the little small shrimp, we'll go with the bigger shrimps in and hook them in the tail. Cast them up current and let them float through the edge of the light. Not in the middle of the light, but on the edges. And you'll see snook coming up once in a while popping baits that way. Small pinfish. The best one is the pigfish, like little grass grunts they call them. Because I think they make the noises.
Yeah,
And they're one of the best ones around for snook. You can catch those. You can get these pinfish traps you can buy and put some thread fins or dead thread fins in there, throw them out like 2 days before you're going to go fish, and come back and pull it up and you got all your bait there, all your pinfish, little grass grunts and everything. They'll work good. If you're using thread fins for bait in those pinfish traps, get a tie wrap, go through the eyes of it and tie it on the bottom. If not, those baits will float to the surface and the pinfish will eat them from the outside. That way it keeps the bait down inside the trap and they have to go inside. The live shrimp, again, you're hooking it underneath the horn, just like you do with the redfish or the trout. You hook it all the same way. Same with the scaled sardines. Okay, we went through a lot of information there, but basically fishing for trout, redfish, and snook is about the same. The areas will be different. Trout are on the flats with potholes, 4 to 6 feet of water. Snook are always on points of mangroves or docks. Ambush points, always think of that, ambush points. Redfish, they can be out in the middle of the flats roaming around. You'll see some individual ones, but when you see a school of redfish, the water turns red almost. Then you get excited. The most important thing again is don't make any noise. The biggest invention to catch redfish has been the power pole. In the past, we would see a school of redfish, put an anchor out, you put 10 feet of line, you're on top of the fish. You've already scared them. Now with the power pole, you just push a button and boom, you're stopped right there. So quietness is very important. I take a small step ladder with me that I can stand up on top of so I can get a better advantage to look for redfish. Because if not, you may come right on top of the school. By the time you put your power pole down, you've already scared them. So I like to look out further and hunt for them that way. When it's a cloudy day, then they're hard to find because you need that light to shine on top of them to make them flashing. So I like real shiny days, clear, okay? But again, when you go out there, be careful when you go out and don't spook the fish. Red fishing they're very, very sensitive. And if you're on a school of fish and some people come over, you just say, here, just take your time, anchor over here. We stopped one day and got into a school of redfish by ourselves. And I see a guy coming in on the flats in the no motor zone. He's running his big motor. And I yelled over to him, hey, don't run your big motor. You're going to spook all these fish. He said, well, my trolling motor is weak. I said, well, don't come in here. First of all, it's against the law, to run your motor like that. But if you're going to come in here, get your trolling motor or get a push pole. And I said, now anchor right over there because the fish are right there. You can see them. And cast up in there. So we were hooking them every cast. He comes in and he gets a bunch of chum, throws the chum out. Why? The fish are already in a frenzy. Now here comes the birds down, diving, spooks the fish. So common sense, just use common sense. When to chum, when not to chum. You don't want birds diving on your fish because you're going to lose them all, okay? And be respectful of other people that are out there. If you go up, try to stay away as far as possible with them. And even ask them, hey, do you mind if I come in and share that school of redfish with you? Lots of them will say, sure, come on in. But be careful, slow, no noise. And then I've called lots of people, and yeah, come on over. Come over, catch some fish, just be respectful of everybody there, and everybody will catch them. You can sometimes have them all circled, in a big circle, and the fish can't leave. Cast your baits out, everybody's catching them all day. But as soon as a couple of boats leave, all of a sudden those fish find a way to get out. And you don't ever see them leave. They just disappear. It's like magic. Where'd they go? So be quiet is the main thing out there. Live bait, artificial bait, either way. You can have fun with both of them. Okay? Anybody have any questions? There's a lot of material, but I'm going to give away some stuff. I got some lures here to give away. I got some shrimp, some live target shrimp. What size hook do we use for ladyfish? Raise your hand. 3/0 circle hook, right. I give one of these. I'm not going to throw it to you. It's got a hook. There. Why do you put a bead on the circle hook?
So pinfish don't fall off.
Pinfish or other baits, live baits, don't fall off. Right.
So cute.
Don't stick yourself.
Yeah.
Ow!
King fishing. I went through it real fast on that. What speed should you go with live bait?
Don't be
when king
greedy.
fishing?
You've already
King
got your
fishing.
prize.
Or it was not 1 mile, it was like 3 to 4, I think you said that.
No.
1 mile an
Oh,
hour.
it was 1 mile?
1 mile an
Alright, I
hour.
wrote it down.
That's my
Sorry.
favorite fish.
This is a new soft
Never mind.
plastic that's mirror, that's called Paul Brown.
It's magic.
Magic.
The magic pink lure.
Oh, she got pink?
Yeah.
You're greedy.
I'm just kidding. Pink doesn't catch
That's not a good
nice.
question.
What size circle hook do you use for live shrimp and other live bait? What size circle hook?
Oh. Nope.
Yeah.
Anybody else? You put it out?
In the back, you said it? 2/0, yes.
Yep. Now toss it on the table here. Ooh.
Then we had one for what size hook do you use for chunk bait? And if you've won, don't let someone else try it. It was 2/0 for the live. What's it for the chunked out bait?
Like ladyfish.
Cut up.
You cut
Chunks.
them in chunks. 4?
No.
No, close.
Is it 10?
No.
10 are gigantic for
Don't be greedy. You've already won.
Goliath grouper.
Yes. 8. No. What did you?
I was saying 8.
No.
No.
6.
Oh, you're all wrong. It's
No.
3.
See? 3 of them. Okay.
You get nothing.
2-inch chunks.
The hooks, when they start off, you start off at 0. If you go to 1, 2, or 3, they're smaller. You go to 1/0, 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, they get bigger. Okay? So this is 2/0 for live bait.
It's like the number line you learned was 0, and then the -1, 2, 3, and then the +1, 2. It had an O after it. That means it's
Okay.
getting bigger every time you do that.
So you go to 10/0, it's a great big hook about this big. So
And if you go to
2/0,
10,
you go to 3/0.
little trout rig.
Yeah.
All right.
I've got cards up here. Anybody want any of my cards, it shows both my boats on here. I've got an offshore boat I do for king mackerel fishing. We're sponsored by Bob Evans Restaurants, Mirror Lure, Live Target, a bunch of other companies. And then on the other side shows my bay boat. So I use that for tarpon, kingfish, use it for kingfish too, and trout, redfish and all that. Tarpon fishing, I gotta tell you a story. I took a guy out, he always comes down twice a year. He wanted to catch a tarpon, never caught one before. And we were off Anna Maria. And he hooked the biggest tarpon I've ever seen in my life. It was crazy. It ended up being 286 pounds. Usually they're around 100 pounds, 110, 130. This was 286, gigantic. It took him 3 hours. But it was
It was a good 3 hours, I guess.
yeah, it was, I sat and drank a beer. He was busy.
Those who didn't get signed in, make sure you get signed in, please. Let's give Captain Lynn a round of applause. I'm telling you guys, follow what he said and you'll catch a lot more fish.